Funding now on Indiegogo, it's Shadowbinders, our second chance offer to get 2 hardcovers of our classic webcomic delivered to your door. Steampunk, fantasy, and romantic comedy from Clownfish Comics. Go to Indiegogo, check out the link in the description below. Now on with the video. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and we're going to talk about journalism, or journalism as some people on YouTube like to say. We're going to talk about the decline in digital media that, we've talked about this before. A lot of these publishers, these quote-unquote news outlets have been propped up by venture capital for years, and it's time to pay the piper. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, a lot of these companies don't have the resources to turn their venture capital backed blogs into sustainable businesses. We're seeing a lot of companies like BuzzFeed and Vice laying off. We saw BuzzFeed buy the Huffington Post and then gut it, lay a bunch of people off. And we've seen a lot of pop culture blogs fold lately too. Nerdist, I know, laid a bunch of people off. Geek and Sundry laid people off. Sci-Fi Fangirls, which was one of the big attack sites out there. They attack the fans on a regular basis. They got shut down because a lot of these companies aren't sustainable. So we're going to talk about that and more indicators that these companies are in trouble, especially BuzzFeed and Vice, two of the biggest players right now. They're going to have to do some wheeling and dealing to get some money, some much needed capital. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, to tell you the truth. I think it's too little too late. And I think this era of online journalism is coming to a close. And what it could do is actually open the door for more fair and balanced reporting, fan-driven blogs. Once again, we're going to talk about ours in this video. By the way, we'll talk about our new old site, Derezed. We're bringing it back. We've got some writers, and we're going to try to make an actual fan-powered blog for fans by fans. And we don't have any fancy New York or San Francisco offices, so maybe we can make it work. I don't know. We'll see. Before we get into it, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 184,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. It means a lot. We do cover pop culture news. We cover, anime, comic books, movies. We've been covering the situation with digital journalism because it does dovetail with pop culture. Numerous hit pieces written over the years attacking and demonizing fans of different franchises. The latest flavor of the toxic fandom is the Snyder Cut fans. They're being demonized. Before that, it was Star Wars fans. Before that, it was video game fans, video gamers. Whatever, it's these news outlets churn out hit piece after hit piece after hit piece, and a lot of them, like BuzzFeed, have been propped up with venture capital, and the money is running out. They get 5 or 6 years to get their shit together, basically, and get some advertisers, and we know because of the pandemic, the advertising has dropped off as well, and now they're going to have to wheel and deal. According to the information, Vice and BuzzFeed are going to lose valuation cuts, because they're going to have to try to wheel and deal to get some money. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but let's paint a bigger picture here that everybody's talking about it. The elephant in the room is that so many of these news outlets are laying people off. I love this second sentence here. This is coming from Jacobin, by the way. And they're talking about the mass layoffs at the Huffington Post signal doom for journalism. Doom for journalism. Maybe this is why so many journos attack YouTubers and attack fans, because fans and YouTubers, and usually they're one and the same, are speaking for the people. They're taking the eyeballs because fans don't trust these journalists anymore, especially after 6 or 7 years of constant attacks on the fandom. But this is kind of funny. They said the only way that journalism can shield itself from the whims of sadistic media baron owners who care nothing for journalism is by looking beyond capitalist ownership. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because a lot of these journos are way overpaid for what they do. Have you seen the offices that some of these places rent? Have you seen the BuzzFeed offices? Hell, have you seen the Crunchyroll offices? I mean, what the hell? This article goes on to talk about the situation. They said the past 12 months have been especially bad for people employed in the media, with an estimated 28,637 jobs disappearing between January and October of last year. And I know for a couple of years before that, people were losing their jobs because they're running out of money. The pandemic notwithstanding, the industry has been hemorrhaging jobs and trending toward further consolidation for quite some time. U.S. newspapers have shed roughly 50% of all newsroom employees since 2008. Well, that's unavoidable, right? Despite the long-term decline of newspaper jobs, digital and alternative media projects have not really succeeded in making up for the losses. The problem is the content. People will actually pay for digital content that they enjoy, that they think is balanced. And so many of these news outlets are not balanced, and you're alienating, 50% or more of your potential audience by getting weirdly political. It's kind of crazy. But here, The Information has been talking about Vice and BuzzFeed, that they're in advanced talks to merge with an SPAC. So what is an SPAC? It's a special purpose acquisitions company, essentially a shell company set up by investors with the sole purpose of raising money through an IPO to eventually acquire another company. For instance, Diamond Eagle Acquisition Corp was set up in 2019 and went public as an SPAC that December, then announced a merger with DraftKings, gambling tech platform, and they began trading as a public company when the deal closed in April. An SPAC has no commercial operations. It makes no products and does not sell anything. In fact, the SPAC's only assets are typically the money raised in its own IPO. Usually, an SPAC is created or sponsored by a team of institutional investors, Wall Street professionals from the world of private equity or hedge funds, while even high-profile CEOs like Richard Branson and fellow billionaire Tillman Fertitta have jumped on the trend and formed their own SPACs. That's because when SPAC raises money, the people buying into the IPO do not know what the eventual acquisition target company will be. So anyway, it seems like a shell game, right? And this is what they're doing with BuzzFeed and Vice now. And it looks like they're facing valuation cuts, meaning that the sites aren't worth that much. They were way overvalued. Disney lost a ton of money on Vice, like $400 million or something like that on Vice. And a lot of these big media companies dump money into these news outlets thinking, well, we'll own the news and then we can use it to promote our shit. And it has not worked out very well. Almost all of these millennial media news organizations have imploded. They're not sustainable. They're propped up by venture capital and lies, and now it seems like they're going to try to raise some more money to keep them in business. Vice Media is in talks with at least 2 SPACs. This article here on The Information says media firms such as Vice and BuzzFeed are likely to go public by merging with special purpose acquisition companies in the next few months. But unlike SPAC deals in bubbly industries like electric vehicles, the deals are likely to be done at valuations below what the media firms have fetched in the past. They're not worth anything. One offers a valuation of Vice at $2.5 billion, less than half of what Vice was worth in 2017. Meanwhile, BuzzFeed is in talks to go public through a merger with an SPAC called 890 Fifth Avenue Partners at a valuation that would be a little below BuzzFeed's $1.7 billion peak valuation. One of the people familiar with the situation said. That means NBC Universal is going to take a loss on BuzzFeed, while Disney and TPG could lose a significant amount of money on Vice. Such a drop in the value of both companies highlights the challenges media startups have faced over the past few years as competition for advertising dollars has stalled their revenue growth. Bullshit. They were always fake. They were propped up by venture capital, and when they had to start turning a profit, right? A lot of it, these companies, when it was time for them to put up or shut up, They had the unfortunate timing of it happening during the pandemic when the ad rates were down. But they're trying to blame everybody but themselves. These business models were never viable. In fact, we had this article, we talked about it previously from TPM, Talking Points Memo. And they're talking about the HuffPost layoffs. And this is Josh Marshall. And he basically said, there was no market for these sites. There was no market for them. They said they were floated on an ongoing infusion of new investment money chasing big payoffs that were probably always illusionary. Then they hit the brick wall of rapid consolidation and automation-driven price declines in the ad industry. Whole territories in the firmament of digital news media were simply based on lies. Based on lies. Not lies that had anything to do with the journalism or journalists. There was simply no business model there to make the whole thing work. These companies were founded on lies, propped up with venture capital, and now it looks like they're going to lie some more and rattle the tin cup to get some more money, but they're only worth half as much as they were a couple of years ago because nobody's reading this shit. A lot of it's gamed. I have to wonder how many of the numbers for these websites are legitimate because you can actually game traffic very easily. Geeky and I track this kind of stuff all the time. It's all one big shell game, and it's time to pay the piper, and they don't have the money to do it. So what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of salt from journalists. This could, in part, explain some of these ridiculous hit pieces that have been coming out in the last couple of weeks, why they're trying so hard to start GamerGate again, all this other nonsense, because they have to get the hits. And now that Trump is out of office, they don't have the big orange meanie to constantly write articles about, hit pieces about, or tied to this or tied to that. So now they're going after fans. They're going back in time and being like, well, let's dredge up GamerGate. Let's dredge up The Last Jedi again. Let's dredge up whatever got us hits 3 or 4 years ago when we were making money or thought we were making money. But the reality is these sites were probably never turning a profit. They were getting paid $100,000 a year plus some of these journos living in urban areas to write garbage articles. And it was all venture capital that was being burned, and now the truth is coming out that these sites are built on lies. So what's going to happen is more legit fans are going to go back to square one, build their own news outlets, build their own websites, kind of like what, Comic Book Resources used to be when it was privately owned. And we're actually in the process of doing that right now. If you go out to d-resd.com, we've actually got some writers writing some articles now. We're going to try to build a fan blog for fans, by fans. We're going to see how it goes. We do not have millions of dollars in startup cash. So it's going to be kind of slow and steady, but hopefully sustainable. And hopefully we'll be able to give actual fans voices once again. That's the plan. We're going to see how it goes. But if you have to borrow a bunch of money to start your business, chances are it was never really viable to begin with. And they're just going to borrow more money through all this. And I think that BuzzFeed and Vice are going to be gone within the next 5 years. I just don't see how any of this is sustainable. So I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.